Okay, we're recording now, so we actually... I'm sorry about last week, I forgot to press the record button, so we had our meeting without having a record of it, except for the the notes that we took down. So, I don't know, did anyone respond to the issue and put anything on specifically on the agenda, because I haven't actually checked my email yet.
No, I haven't just yet.
Okay. Oh, okay. So Julian can't make it because he's traveling. And Michael responded about DNS. Okay, so how about we just do a... I posted a big long list of things that I was aware of that had been done since the last meeting, and that are potential agenda items. Mostly that's just a big old stand-up, a brain dump stand-up, so that I had that captured. I didn't have to think about it at 6 a.m. So does anyone else want to do their own form of stand-up things that they've been working on?
Yeah, I can start. I'm just reading through your notes as well. It looks like you mentioned at least one thing I did. So I've been continuing my effort of adding init scripts to most of the machines. I think we're done now. There might be some I've missed, but we'll see that once I move on to the kind of next thing I have on my agenda. Cache on pretty much all machines should also be done. I mean, we had a few Ubuntu's that was missing, but it's such a simple thing to do. And I also ended up adding an Ansible job that downloads and installs Cache that we can use for distributions that lacks Cache in their packages.
Did you get it working on the machines with the dev toolset? Because I tried to add it to CentOS 5 and failed dismally.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't tried. I haven't tried it on all the setups yet. I think CentOS 5 had Cache as part of their the package. Yeah, the package is available to us, but that version is pretty old. So the problem would most likely be that we need to pass the path to the dev toolset on like those machines.
I tried to. This is for the CentOS, one of the CentOS 5 release machines. I tried to do that in multiple ways and could not get it to register with the compiler. So it's building without using it, which is annoying. Okay,
so it wasn't actually compiling. It wasn't actually compiling Cache. It was just using it.
It's Cache-S. It shows you whether it's using it, and it just nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. But it's most often just path juggling. It can be that the compiler actually unfolds to the entire C host, you know, the x84, x86-64, that entire GNU thing. I'm not sure, but I'll have a look at it.
What it was SCL was overrunning paths, and I even went so far as to edit the SCL config for the dev toolset too, and I still couldn't get the path right.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't actually use that. I ended up avoiding a CL altogether, because all it does, it creates like a new environment and it passes some variables and also some LD paths. But for our case, we actually don't need that. We just need to pass the path to GCC. So what you do is just pass like user or opt lib dev toolset blah 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 root user bin, and then it just works. So yeah, but I'll have a look at it if you want. But I think that's all you have to do to get it working. So just check the init script for the CentOS 5 and 6 machines, and you'll see how it's done. Okay, cool. So then I don't have to look at the actual installation of Zcash, so that's good. Or CCCache or whatever it's called. I never learned. Yeah, so my next step with the Ansible is pretty much to start refactoring it, because a lot of the machines will share init scripts. It will share other very common tasks as adding SSH users from GitHub, adding IOJS users, downloading Jenkins stuff. So my plan was to kind of start ripping that out into generic tasks and then see what we can do to like reduce the amount of configs we run. So for instance, for Ubuntu, my plan was to instead of having one for every version, just try to have a generic one. There's a few things I need to figure out, so it might be actually one or two per distribution. But hopefully, like things such as init scripts is simple because we know the majors and minors when they changed from Upstart to systemd. So yeah, that's kind of my plan for this week, to have something by this meeting next week going. So that's going to be really nice to get that simplified. What else have I done? Yeah, the Windows boot up starting Jenkins from a shell instead of using services is done. It wasn't made by me. It was Joao, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he fixed it for us, and he's also documented who did it. So the plan is to at least add some documentation for the Windows bots on which packages to install and perhaps where to install from, and if there's any specific settings for Visual Studio while installing it. Yeah, Windows will hopefully be in a better state now after they restart as well. And finally, I've been starting on looking at using Clang, CLang, on Windows as an alternative compiler, which is, yeah, it's a bit of a task, but I think it's good to at least get it going and try to get some prototypes so others can start chiming in. And the path I'm doing so far is trying to avoid min.gw or Cygwin and just go as low dependencies as possible. So at the moment, what I've got installed is the LLVM suite, which gives you Clang, and Gmake, and that at least gets us going. But there's a few things that needs to be resolved in terms of assumptions we make in every dependency or every zip file, more or less, about Visual Studio and Windows. So the most common scenarios are essentially like, if platform is Windows, make these assumptions about what Visual Studio version we have, change these paths, and change these includes. So it's going to be a bit of unfolding, but I think once we close into, for instance, the actual compilation, I think it might work better than yeah, the make stuff actually.
So have you been able to compile anything on Windows with Clang?
Yeah, I mean, if I download OpenSSL and V8, that's not a problem to actually compile it. The challenge now is just getting our build suite to understand it.
That's great. And in terms of compatibility, will it produce library files that are going to be compatible then, so that native add-ons can use Visual C++ and they don't have to use Clang?
Clang, at least states that they try to be fully compatible with Visual Studio on their documentation. I'm yet to confirm it, so it's hard to say we're there yet. But
they made a lot of progress. We looked into Clang a couple of years ago, and it couldn't compile any native application without Cygwin.
Yeah, it's most often, at least what I've seen, is the tool set, not really the actual compilation. But I know a few years ago there was also issues between, you know, if you compile stuff with Visual Studio and Clang, you'll run into issues, and that's not something we can accept. So we'll see. It's a very rudimentary, you know, work in progress testing, but hopefully
it can
get going.
Parallel to the other one as an experimental
exactly
compiler. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so that's roughly what I've been doing this week.
Okay, I'll go next. So, well, this is stand-up for myself and Joao Reis, since we work together. Joao solved the auto-logon, as Johan already stated. Then we also solved the SmartOS issue that we experienced when building Joy and Node with an older V8 with a newer GCC. I'm gonna post an issue here. I hope I don't conflict with your edits. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. So anyway, we should be able to restore SmartOS for Joy and Node, and then I open a PR to Joy and Node for backporting all those commits that make the CI compatible. I still need a look good to me on that one. I'm gonna post that in the chat. And then I've made some progress with porting Node accept for requests, or kind of a job that will work with PRs and will be able to push changes back to the repo, and also do have all the features of IOJS and EPR multi. After figuring out what plugins need to be installed on Jenkins, the whole thing is pretty straightforward. I'm just copying a lot of things from existing jobs, but I'm not done yet. So the current plan, I'm going to make 2 entry points. One is going to be the current IOJS and EPR multi unchanged, and the other one is going to be one that's going to be able to push changes back. And the idea would be to unify the workers, so the jobs that do the testing inside, so the IOJS PR Windows, IOJS PR Linux, so they can reuse the logic as much as possible. But until the jobs are stable, I'm going to work on completely separate copies, so that we don't need to keep them in sync. And what else? Oh yeah, in order to enable this, even this experimental job, I will need to re-enable flaky tests on IOJS. It's behind the flag, so hopefully there won't be any objections. For that, should I do it against V1X or master?
Master. V1X is pretty much redundant right now. We have been talking about backporting stuff and maintaining V1X, but that hasn't happened yet, so just master.
So there are no PRs against V1X?
There are, but they're irrelevant, basically. And if we do, so we're backporting, so we would pull it back to V1X if it's needed.
So master, okay. And one thing is also that it's nice the work that you've done to move the logic from Jenkins to the Makefile for the test CI flags. But I also think that we're going to need at some point to pass some parameters. And so I was wondering what the best way of doing that would be, maybe with an environment variable.
What sort of parameters? Like system dependent parameters?
Well, test CI will not be all equal, right? It will be test CI in different shapes. Like, for example, one that ignores flaky tests. That's an example. Or one that runs more tests than another. So there will be different variants of test CI. So perhaps we can pass.
I think we've leaned on environment variables for that.
Yeah. I guess that's the best practice for passing argument parameters to Makefile. It's environment there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways, but I think that's by far the simplest because environment variables, worst case, can even be added through Jenkins. So if you want to do it for a specific slave, you could kind of add it through there.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the option of getting access to the machine.
And then I'm gonna need to create a GitHub user for pushing changes in Jenkins. Right now I put my own credentials, but eventually I will create a Node Jenkins user so we can share the credentials. And that's all for my stand-up.
So I guess I could go next. I've really just been trying to connect up the PowerPC Little Indian machine with Ansible. It seems pretty straightforward. I'm just going to put in the Jenkins secret that Johan provided me and push the button. That should finish that. And then once I get connected, I'll look to start doing some of the experimental builds with the PowerPC on vNext. In parallel, the Fedora machine for Big Endian doesn't seem to be accessible right now, so I'm going to need to chase that down to see why it's not online, and then I'll do the same to have it added to the CI as well.
It's great. It's always fun bringing on new platforms. I quite enjoy that process from seeing the coverage go up.
I mean, so far the Ansible script for Ubuntu 14 just ran, which is nice. So it's nice to be able to run that and have it add all the pieces that we need.
Okay, so I might quickly run through mine. I'll just read off some of the notes that I put on GitHub. So what did I do? Oh yes, we've got a secret spreadsheet now that most people on this call have access to, but we can add more people, add access to more people as it's appropriate, as people need it to that spreadsheet. It's got passwords for some of the resources, but we do need to be obviously a little bit careful with it because it's got some root account. It's got some account passwords for like DigitalOcean and Rackspace.
Yeah, and I added the PowerPC, like the secret keys and the associated passwords as well.
Great. So there's a server resources pull request into Node.js/Node. That it comes out as a CSV, and GitHub actually displays it nicely. They've got a CSV formatter. So that is a list of all the server resources that I can pull together, but there may be more that I've missed. So I'll merge that and let others add to that. Michael, you might want to add yours in there as well. And one thing to note there is that where I've put the authentication column, I've said who has access to them. Where it's build team, I think we can be fairly liberal amongst this team. If people want access to those machines, we can add them. So far, it's particularly for the Linux machines, it's like myself and Johan have been the only ones actually logging in, even though a couple of other people have access. There's that. What else?
Regarding to just a quick note regarding to access to machines, it's kind of a, either we could go like all in passwords, or we could use the kind of in between SSH key access we're using now. But I think for that scenario, we'd probably want to extend the SSH keys. So for instance, we just create a file which contains all of the users of the build team, and then we perhaps create a cron job as part of every Ansible machine that just downloads keys every nightly or something, and does some simple verification that the download went as planned before replacing the current authorized keys. But it might be good just like simplifying, adding new people to the build group and simplifying giving them access to machines. Then there might be a reason for not giving everyone access to all the build machines, but if so, I guess we could figure that one out as well.
Yeah, the only caveat there is I've been trying to keep the release machines a bit more restricted. So
yeah, those we can separate.
Okay, yeah, all the build machines. Well, the Linux ones on DigitalOcean, and we got a couple on Rackspace. Actually, did I? I think there's actually a couple more on Rackspace that I hadn't listed. Because there's a Fedora 22, Debian 8 on there too. I wonder why that didn't get listed. Anyway, there's a few that have other restrictions for, whether it be the Voxer ones or the ARM ones that are in my office behind my personal network. There are other reasons for not giving out liberal access to them.
Yeah.
I had a note in there about ARM v7. I switched over compiling nightlies to a Debian Wheezy-based machine, so they actually get compiled against an older libc, which makes them more compatible with machines such as BeagleBone Black and a bunch of other single-board machines that are using older Linuxes. So we've heard of success with those new binaries with nightlies, but we haven't switched over for non-nightlies yet for releases. That'll be yet to do. On that same note, something I didn't put down is that ARM v8 is currently offline. I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but I took it offline because the single machine we're using became unresponsive. I think they've rebooted that overnight, and we should have access again to that. I also have an email today that I only saw the first couple of lines of that that ARM are putting in for an allocation of 2 more ARM v8 machines on Linaro for us. So we should have a proper ARM v8 cluster soon. That'll be nice. So we've got some redundancy, and we can make release builds out of that too. Yep, and the other stuff I've just noticed is just various pull requests that I've got in for build-related things, like the header files and the changing the Makefiles for build targets, and that's me. And then there's some discussion items that I've put in as well.
Regarding the slave status, the Ubuntu 10 machines, they're gone, right? We're not using 10 any longer. Okay, cool. Because then we should remove them from the repo. Because I was going through that and I saw that a few of them were still online, but I couldn't get access. So I just wanted to verify that we should not have that any longer.
Yeah, we should remove them because they fell out of LTS a couple of months ago. That actually, another point on that. I did have 32-bit builds for and 64 for Ubuntu 10.04, and I skipped the 32-bit builds for Ubuntu 12 because I felt we had good coverage there. So it's an open question as to whether we want to spin up a 32-bit Ubuntu 12 machine to test that as well. We don't have great 32-bit coverage, but I'm not aware of any test failures that we've ever had, or that I've ever seen, that affect 32-bit only. So I'm not hugely concerned about the coverage there.
let's see if people file an issue and go from there.
Right. Actually, and on that same note, and Julian might be the person for this actually. Alexis, so you're aware, we stopped producing 32-bit binaries for OS X. So the installer that you get for IO.js is 64-bit only. It doesn't do the 32-bit plus 64-bit compile and put them together like it does for Joyent Node. If we want to start producing builds for Joyent Node soon, 0.10 and 0.12 from that machine, from the new Jenkins, we may want to consider putting that functionality back in, because while I've yet to see any complaints at all by people, I suspect that there are people running older versions of OS X that want 32-bit from older versions of Node.
If we're going to release it, we have to test it.
Yeah. I did have a question that I wanted to ask on the Mountain Lion front. I think that's still supported in the IO.js builds, is it?
Yeah, I think we can actually support all the way back to, I think it's 10.08 or 10.8, which is
right.
Yeah, but we don't have test machines for it because that's really hard. I don't have on the machines that I set up. I don't have the installers for the older versions of OS X.
Right.
And they're really hard to get hold of.
Right. So in terms of building, though, so you've got the configuration where we build with the right set of the tools to support those older versions, but we're building on the latest OS X.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to validate. I'm looking at setting that up here, so I want to validate you guys have that working. And
it is working, and I think even Ben Nordhaus, I think, even uses an older version of OS X. I think he uses 10.8. I don't know why, but he uses that and on his dev machine. So we've even got TSC members still using them fine. So yeah, it's just the Xcode. You tell Xcode what the minimum is and do that, right. And it just works. So
that's great. What I read, and I was hopeful, but we just haven't done it yet. So it's good to hear. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's status update. There was a couple of other things regarding the website group and the evangelism group, and stuff about DNS conversations going on in GitHub there. I don't know if we want to cover them, but I did have a note that I'd like to make sure we keep pushing forward on a new architecture for the website. I'd love for somebody else to drive that. I was hoping Ken Perkins would be here and would be able to be one of the drivers for that, but yeah. Also, there's the question of what do we do with Node.js.org? Do we migrate it off the Joyent machine, or do we go all in with the Joyent machines and put everything in there? I just have no idea. I have preferences, but maybe we'll wait for Julian to come back on that because he's representing Joyent, and Joyent may be interested in keeping a foot in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep, agreed. If they're, because those machines, I guess it's, do we know how long or whether they're going to stay forever? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they're a platinum member of the foundation, and maybe they want to continue to contribute. I mean, I think they'll continue to contribute build machines because they want binaries, but if they want to step up and provide more resources, like let's use Manta for binaries, or I don't know, maybe they're happy to do that. Maybe they have a preference for doing that, but if they'd rather, if they have no preference, then I think I'd rather lean on other services that have got a bit better tooling around them. But yeah, it's really an open question.
Yeah.
Okay, one question about going back to OS X 32-bit. So we don't have a machine to test it on, right?
No. So so the way we have the OS X setup now is that it's 2 Mac Minis with VMs on top of it. So I could add more VMs to test 32-bit and they're just running parallel. We can do that if we want to, and then just test 32-bit builds on there. But
how do you set up the VMs?
Sorry?
What do you use to set up the VMs? I'm just curious.
I'm just using VMware Workstation.
Okay.
Or Fusion, or something. Actually, I can't remember if it was VMware something.
It's got to be Fusion. Yeah, so we can assume that we're going to have to do that, right?
I think so. I really don't know. I don't know the state of... I don't know who's using Node for old OS X's. I don't even know how you get stats on that. I was thinking about approaching NPM and asking them for some website stats. Maybe they've got client stats, but I know they do some interesting website access analyses. And they might have some numbers.
Joyent will have download statistics.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they've given me download statistics for Windows before. So we can ping Julian and see if we want to keep support for 32-bit, and then if so, we'll have to install the machine.
And some of those Mac... Go ahead.
One of the reasons I removed it was simply because everything's 64-bit these days, but also you double the build time because the machine that builds the PKG file has to build 64-bit and then 32-bit and then munge them together. And just hate the idea of more compile time. But now that we've got CC cache on there, maybe that's not such a drama.
In terms of the machines we need to do this, in theory we have them for Node, right? So maybe they can be connected to the Converge CI?
From what I remember, that was TJ Fontaine's private machine that's running OS X stuff. So that might not be an option.
Okay.
But in terms of build time, we might be able to do this just for a joint node, so not for all the PRs.
And actually, this is controlled by the Makefile. So we just removed that from the Jenkins config, and now in that pull request that I have to IO.js, it's actually moving that into the Makefile where we remove the 32-bit compile. So it's completely controlled by Makefile.
Okay.
Would be interesting to know though whether Julian has any stats on the necessity here. I'd love to throw out a non-32-bit installer and see what happens, but that's not really a good way to approach this, is it?
I'll follow up with Julian and follow up on this.
Okay, is there anything we want to cover regarding future work or work we want to approach this week?
I'm still keen on improving the downloading and replication situation. We were talking about CDNs last week, and there were some issues with using Fastleaf because of China, I think. But I guess Ken should be here and chip in. But I really want to see some kind of improvements in their area. So if there's anything I can do, I'm just, I guess I'm raising my hand.
Well, the way to start that, I think, is to at least open an issue and start discussion on new architecture for downloads. I think Ken's idea was to store it in an object store, but replicate onto the servers that we're serving from, so that we can have multiple servers running the website, or at least the downloads part of that. But the authoritative source is in an object store, which would be nice because then you could have Jenkins uploading directly to the object store.
Yeah. And I also think we should engage GitHub releases page into that task as well at some point. I mean, some people, it's part of their DNA to kind of walk over to releases and just get a download from there. And I think it's better to have a download we at least generate for them than whatever GitHub throws at them. Okay, well, I'll create an issue and we'll take it from there. Hopefully, get some progress to next week.
Is there currently any overlap between the build working group and the website working group in terms of members?
Hans, Christian, are you in the website group?
No, I'm not.
No. No, so I don't believe there is. I sort of keep an eye on what happens over there, but no.
I wish that we could stay more in sync.
Well, I think the way that it's worked out is that they are willing to, like, that they're willing for us to manage infrastructure, and the way we've done that with IOJS at least is they just focus on the repository which contains the website for IOJS, and we take care of everything from there onwards. So we set up the GitHub webhook to do that, and there's no, we don't do the Makefile rsync thing that Joint Node does for Node.js.org. So none of them actually need access to servers. It's just we take their stuff and put it on the server for them. And that means that we don't have to have great overlap, and they just come and request stuff from us now and again when they change things, like change repo names. Like, it's really, there's not that much that we need to overlap on, and if we can set that up so that it's the same for Node.js.org, where they don't need much from us, then that would be ideal. And then we can go ahead on back-end architectures, and that's transparent to them. They don't need to care about it.
Okay,
Even things
that
like
makes sense.
Even if you look at the way that they currently do, like announcing the current version of IOJS, they have a part of their website build that actually does a request out to the downloads directory and looks at the index.json file from there and finds out what the latest release is, and then puts the announcement on that. And then to make it work, we have a hook that says whenever there is a new release, we rebuild the website. So they don't even need to care when there's a new release. It just happens. Their stuff gets upgraded for them because of the way they've built it and the way we've got the triggers set up. So we really are basically separate to them, and that it just works.
Cool.
Yeah, I think the communication has been, at least I've seen a few times, every time they need something, they kind of ping us and we do the work or give them the access to whatever routines or improvements they need. So that, I think that direction works. At least it's been working for a few times. I think it might be good to try and open these similar questions to them in terms of CDN or whatever it might be. Question is how we best transfer that. Should we just open issues at their place, or should we open an issue at our place and ping them, or yeah?
I think let's open an issue. How about you start the discussion and maybe pull Ken into it as well, if you can.
Yeah.
And make it about back-end architecture, because it covers more than just the downloads. It's also HA for the website. And ideally, this is going to be completely transparent to users and to the website group. But if you want to CC the website working group from the issue in our repo, then at least they can be in the loop there, and they might have thoughts to add.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so the last one I wanted to just cover was asking Alexis what do you need from us to make more progress on converging these Jenkins jobs?
Well, so far I don't have any blocking issues.
Okay.
I just need to set aside some time to make progress with it. But
that's easy.
I'm almost there. Yeah, so that's easy enough. I'm almost there. By the end of this week, we should have an Uber job that we can consume. Yeah, if I can get approvals on pull requests, that would be, I guess.
Right. Yeah, you're wanting yeah, approval and pull requests to join.
Join Node, and I will submit one to bring flaky test support back sometime this week. I will ping you guys when I do.
Okay. Should we wrap it up then?
Yep.
Sure.
I'm really tired, so I'd like to wrap it up.
Yeah, Alexis, can we catch up either through IRC or something else after we close the meeting?
Okay.
I just wanted there's one, we're trying to build Windows for the new 10 and 12 releases, and there's one of the PRs that got integrated that seems to have broken that. I know Julian was looking at a bit, but I was just wondering if you were in the loop at all.
Sure, we can open a new Hangout. What do you think?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. I'll send it to you over Gitter.
Sounds good. Let me just log on there.
Okay.
Okay, talk to you guys later.
Wrap this up. Thanks,
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.